Hello, welcome to CSM Talk, the CSM podcast that focuses on the two fundamentals of success, which is value to the customer and value to the organization. On Rule of 40 today, we're going to be talking to my guest who is going to focus on one area of the Rule of 40. That might be new logo acquisition, it might be churn, it might be upsell and expansion, or it might be profitability, and ask how they partner with customer success and ultimately how that drives value to the customer. All right, got it? Good. Let's CSM talk. So Ulf's going to be our guest, talking about aspects of the Rule of 40 that have interest to him and his business. But I'll stop now and I'll let you introduce yourself. So Ulf, please introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about your company.
Hi. Yes, Ulf Kasshag, CFO, been a CFO for 20 plus years now in various software companies. And so it's basically always been software. I'm currently the CFO of Findity AB, which is a expense management company. We're a Swedish company, about 7 million euros in revenue. So we're kind of in a growth phase. I will call it a scale up maybe. We are now looking at expanding beyond the Nordics and expand out in Europe predominantly, and eventually, if we're successful, into other markets too. But so it's a typical SaaS software application that we provide to customers for expense management, which means we're helping company with ways for them to as efficiently and effectively process their expense reports and expenses through various systems by trying to automate as much of the rules and the regulations and the around this, so we'll make it very simple and very easy for customers to utilize.
Cool. And a little bit about the go-to-market motion within Findity. Is it a product-led go-to-market? Is it a sales-led? Or even a partner-led one? If you'd like to tell us a bit about that.
It's actually a little bit of all three. We are predominantly working through partners, both white label partners, which means they provide our solution under their own name and their own brand. And in that case, many customers don't even know they're using our stuff rather than the partner stuff. That's about, I should say, 65% of our business. 35% is direct, and typically we work direct with larger customers who would prefer to work directly with a vendor rather than through a partner. Where we predominantly work or focus on the SMB space, which is why a lot of our partners are also focused on their customer base is predominantly also on an SMB level, which means that some of the larger customers we have, and we do have customers with 8,000 to 10,000 seats, they prefer to go direct because they want to work directly with the supplier, but also that our partners are really not necessarily set up to service a customer of that size. We do have, also, to answer your question, we are trying to build up a product-led go-to-market strategy where we're basically in the infancy of that. So far it's been partner-led and a lot of support going into making our partners successful in order to provide our service or our products to the market, but also in direct sales to some degree.
Yeah, so you've got that sort of hybrid of the go-to-market for partner-led being the majority of the stuff you've done because they're fairly big deals to deal with their customers. Yeah. And then for the big sort of enterprises that might want to deal with you directly because it's a direct relationship with products and engineering to align with what they're trying to do and services, that's more sales-led. And then is your product-led really for something which maybe for smaller entry level of like sign up and go and get going with the product, and then product adoption builds it from there?
We're moving in that direction. I mean, we're trying to automate as much as possible all the basic tax rules or whatever other legislation and rules that come with the how you basically are able to process or which expenses are tax deductible, which are not, how much of a certain type of expense. For instance, if customer entertainment, particularly in Sweden, where alcohol is very restricted from the perspective of what can be deducted for tax purposes or not, then there are different rules, and the product fully supports that. And when we move into a market, we try to support the local rules as much as possible in the sense of having the product ready for that market, which is why we're not in that many markets at this point in time. It's I would say about five markets for real, where the product is fully adopted to the local market and the rules and regulations.
So thank you for that on the overview of your go-to-market. So when you're looking at, and you've mentioned the sort of term scale up at the moment, that type of motion you're in, that the business is in, which aspects of the Rule of 40 are probably top of mind for you and the board? Is it going to be about new logo acquisition? Is it going to be about upsell and expansion of currently what you've got? Is it going to be about negating churn or profitability? Which areas are sort of the key ones?
I would say the most important one is actually not one you mentioned as such, even though it's implied, which is the NRR, net revenue retention, to be able to, which you could argue is the incline, the negative of churn, to make sure that your customers stay with you, and that they actually at least basically maintain the same levels, or that they gradually grow the business with us, and we're trying to measure that very carefully, and we're trying to push that to a level which is I wouldn't call it best of the market, but at least at a good level, that I really think to make, because particularly as you work through partners, it takes time to build up the business, and then it's very important to continue for that to build, and to some degree, obviously, working with partners, you get a lot of benefit in the long run in order to acquire new customers, etc. We actually look at NRR in two ways. We look at it both from a organization point of view, where we measure it by the end customer organization, where we have a lot, almost 35,000, but also, for instance, by partner, because they turn over a lot of their customers all the time, but the base business they have with us to keep growing, which is very important. So I think customer retention, if you will, call that churn or call it expansion, but it's probably the most important measurement for us in order to maintain that we have happy customers, they want to stay with us, and we keep growing that business, and particularly if you work through partners, that they keep adding to it also over time.
So you're if I hear that right, you're looking at, which is really interesting to me, is you're actually looking at net revenue retention by almost like a go-to-market channel.
Yes, you could argue that, well, we do both actually. We look at it the normal way, if you will, which means by the end customer organization. A year ago, this end customer had this number of seats and this revenue. Today it has this or that. But we also do it by partners, as the partners turn to particularly in the SMB or SME space, they do turn a lot of organizations. And which means that we look at the partner as a customer from this perspective, but we do measure both in order to see. Otherwise, you can fool yourself if one looks good and not the other, etc.
Well, that's a really good point about how NRR needs to be looked at quite carefully, and how it can hide things if you're not looking at it in the right way. For instance, one reason people sometimes want to look at gross revenue retention, which is just churn, as opposed to net revenue retention, is sometimes maybe you have big customers that with a huge upsell that might skew churn on the other side, and overall your net result looks really, really good.
Yeah.
So do you see any of that you need to be aware of or cognizant of, or is your
well, I mean,
go ahead.
You have to follow both. I mean, you have to. It's always, of course, it's good that, for instance, if we look at a partner, which one of our biggest partners maybe have 8,000 customers. And of course, if they do turn a significant amount, and even though they replenish them or replace them with new customers and keep growing, you kind of have to understand both aspects. So you have to measure the churn, you have to measure new sales, you have to measure up sales or expansion sales and see where that takes us. I think you have to be granular enough in how you measure this in order to try and understand what's really going on out there, particularly if you work through partners, because the downside of working through partners, of course, is that you may lack the direct contact with your end customers, because they're obviously a customer of your partner rather than with yourself.
So that's a really good point. In that, how do you as an organization affect or stop churn or prevent churn when you're one level removed? So in that kind of channel or partner, it's really, you've done your bit to help them, but what's the bit that sort of makes them stickier?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, it is the quality of the service you provide, in this case, through a partner. But I mean, of course, there is a natural churn in the partner community, and they may have customers that decide to basically leave our product. It's really not, they're not really leaving our product. They're actually moving away from the partner as such, which of course will affect you too. So that's why it's important to understand. But the only thing you can do, I guess, is to, of course, have an understanding with the customers you have direct contact with in basically what they like and don't like with the product. The customers we also have use a product where they can provide feedback and request future development and have opinions about what should be improved, what should not, and for which markets, etc. But you have to stay as close as you can to the customer and try and understand what happens. And as we follow this monthly, we have a lot of KPIs we follow on a monthly basis. Then our partner managers, for instance, if there is a significant churn with a partner, they would have discussions. There is ongoing discussions all the time with the partners of what's happening, which new customers are coming in, which are leaving, and why, and in order to understand what's really happening out there. I think that's all you can do, apart from providing a first-class product that the customers really like, and which may kind of trigger them to stay, or it may not, because they may leave for other reasons, because if you work through partners. But I guess that's the name of the game. You have to stay as close as you can.
You raise a really interesting point, in that there are things outside of the control of your product where the end user might decide to leave the partner. It might be that part of your product is wrapped up in a bigger service given to the end customer, and they terminate that, and you're part of that, and that's gone. Yep. That's something you really can't control. So I think what might be interesting to some of the listeners here is that how as a business would you kind of mitigate against that, in that what I'm trying to say is like having maybe too much in the partner channel and that becoming a risk to your business, and how you diversify your channels to try and even this all out?
So to some degree it is obviously a risk, as you're one step removed from your end customer. But we as a business have decided that our main go-to-market is through partners, because that's also what sets us aside. We have a lot of competitors who are more, they sell direct in the sense of provide a service direct to customers. Our volumes are much larger, the number of customers, as we work through partners. With the benefits and the risk, there's higher risk for what you just said. The benefits are, of course, that you do get, I hate to use the word free business, because that's not true. It's never true. But there is a momentum in the business if the partner acquires new customers and also keep their current customers happy in order to have them stay. But the only thing you can do is just try and stay as close as possible to the partner and try and with them to pick up on trends if there's things they don't like. If the things they don't like, they can provide feedback into to our product organization in order for it to eventually potentially make its way into the to development and to the product roadmap and see what happens there. And you have to stay on ahead of also what's happening in the market on the rules and regulations and changes, so your product continues to be flexible and continues to be as automated as possible to make it as easy as possible. I mean, our main target is basically to eliminate expense management, which sounds a bit strange. It's like you're eliminating yourself, but that's what we mean with that is it should be so seamless. So you hardly notice that you have to file your expenses. You just take a photo or you import a file into the product. You click go, and also with instant payout, which we're working on in Sweden, we use the service called Swish. So customers who wants to can add that on. So it means it can basically be an instant payout of the expenses if indeed that's the way our customer wants it set up.
Cool. So, I mean, if I hear all it, just to summarize, there is a risk in the partner channel because you are removed from the end customer. But where that might be mitigated is the kind of volumes you would get with that type of partners. These type of partners you're working with, there's a volume that they will bring in. And a lot of your maybe development that you're doing with them is looking to see how they can expand on bigger volume expansions that they would bring to you. So that's how you might prioritize the product for them. So unlock more markets or unlock more users and things.
Our overall churn, I'm not going to talk about specific numbers, but it is very competitive, as I understand it, for a SaaS service. So we are fortunate enough, at least up to this point, to experience very reasonable churn levels. Some of it caused by the natural churn built into the partner community. So for some few reasons, it may be because of us and our product, but I would say most of it is driven by the natural churn in the partner community. Okay.
Are there any observations you can make around churn for your direct business against churn with your partner business? Is there any?
It's much lower. It's lower. I mean, it's low overall, but it's even lower in the direct side of the business.
Right. Okay. So, what learning might you get from that? Because
that we take that as a stamp of approval that the product is customer friendly. It works, and it basically does what the customer wants it to do. The fact that the churn is slightly higher in the partner community is because of things outside our control. That will be our conclusion from comparing the direct versus the partner channel. And of course, as we just discussed, it's harder to mitigate maybe the natural churn built into the partner community. You have to live with it. There you have to enable the partner to start acquiring or keep acquiring new customers.
This is great stuff. One thing I'd kind of like to end with is looking at on the areas of churn. Are there any? What are the kind of KPIs that you might use to indicate that churn is moving in the right direction? Because obviously churn is something you recognize after the fact. People churn or they don't. But are there any things that have been done on a from a data perspective or KPI perspective to understand? This metric is going in the right direction. We would expect churn to come down.
Yeah, but obviously, as we said, we do break out in what's upsell, what's new sales, what's churn, and also track NRR. But as you say, it's more a after the fact measurement than rather than an indicative measurement. I don't think maybe necessarily we have a specific KPI for that. It's all down to, of course, on the direct side, we obviously work in the kind of the normal fashion with building a pipeline, trying to have as many opportunities as possible in order to reach what the sales targets are, and because we close a certain number, etc. We work that way. On the partner side, it is in our partner managers have to stay close to their partners, meaning we have a set of partner managers. Maybe they have 5 or 6 partners they support each. They have to stay very close. They have weekly or bi-weekly phone calls with the partners and the community and see how. So they are aware, for instance, if the partner is expecting a significant acquisition, etc. In order to, they're also made aware of if there are issues that with certain customers. So I think it's not necessarily a specific KPI, but it is that you have to stay close to that channel, which in this case the partner channel, by having frequent interactions and frequent reviews of also what they expect and what they see and what feedback they get, etc., etc.
Is anything done in the way of maybe NPS? Is that something that might be considered as a way of testing that kind of sentiment, see if that's moving in the right way? Usually sentiment with product. We
are contemplating that in a more, shall I say, more universally applied way. But we use that measurement, but not necessarily in the full scope way, I guess is the best way to say it. But that is of course also an indication if you have happy customers or not. But again, with a large partner business, it's kind of we are expanding that and trying to find the best way in how to measure that in the most accurate possible way. Right. I should say. Yeah. For the direct side, it's easy, of course. But yeah. Cool. Look, Ulf, it's been fantastic talking to you. I found it very, very insightful. I hope our viewers have found it insightful as well, especially a partner-led business and some of the things you have in terms of a partner versus a direct channel. Really interesting to hear that as a CFO, net revenue retention is key on your mind. I think that might be a key thing with other CFOs I speak to. But yeah, thank you very much for taking part, Ulf. No problem, and my pleasure. So I'm always happy to help out if I can. So.
And if people want to get in touch with you, is the best way to do that LinkedIn if they're interested a bit more about?
If they want to get in touch, yeah, we're on LinkedIn. The company, I am on LinkedIn. It's also www.findity.com. We have different language. We have Swedish, English, Finnish, Norwegian, Spanish, and German web pages for potential customers to look at, and there's ways in for them to contact maybe sales or product or whichever area they would be interested in. So, but I'm also very happy to, if there are any people approaching me on LinkedIn or so, I can help make the right contacts within the company. Sure, of course. Well, we'll have the link on the YouTube channel as well. So, right, Ulf, thank you for your time. Thank you for being our inaugural guest on CSM Talk. Thank you, Kevin. All the best. Bye. Bye.
Thank you to today's guest on Rule of 40. If you found this useful, please share this with your network. If there's a topic you want us to cover, then please in the comments let us know. Maybe we'll do a show on that as well. If you want to know about when it's coming up next, hit subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you on the next CSM Talk. Bye for now.